Right. Okay, good evening, everyone. All right, is everybody ready to go? Sorry about the delay. There was a lot of folks, so we wanted to make sure we got everybody in the room and seated. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Hopefully, everybody's allergies are doing better than me. But we do have a quorum. For those of you who are new, my name is Terry. I'm president of the Community Council. All right. Everybody's ready? All right, so we have a quorum and I can call this meeting to order. If you all don't mind, and joining me in a moment of silence. All right, thank you very much. Give everybody that opportunity. Now, if you don't mind, if you can, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. All right, thank you very much. There was a lot of paperwork up front. Hopefully everybody was able to grab a copy, but I'll try to show it off as we go through. Big, long bulleted item, that's the agenda for tonight's meeting. And the first item up on the agenda, if there's no issues, we'll go ahead and approve the treasurer's report and last month's meetings minutes for filing. Now, a lot of folks here tonight, so we got a microphone up front for people to speak, to try to keep things orderly. If you can't make it up here, just raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone to you. Start with police and or fire. Looks like they weren't able to make it out tonight. So we'll move on. The next item, which is from our elementary school, or CPS Elementary School, John P. Parker. They also were not able to make it tonight, but Dr. Mack, principal, she handed me this flyer. Wanted to welcome everybody to their Read Across Madisonville event on Thursday, April 23rd. Let me zoom in. 27th. Thank you. And that's going to be, yeah, there you go. That's going to be at the summit. If anybody is interested, so there's actually a neighborhood resident, a student at John P. Parker who wrote a book. And so that's what they're going to be reading aloud at this event. And if anybody, let me know, there's a event is an online registration, although everybody is welcome to come to the summit for that event on April 7th at 5 p.m. Okay. Next up, we'll have a presentation from Department of, oh, Kathy. Technology, let me tell you. So there's an Eventbrite website and you register. You just look up eventbrite.com and Madisonville 2023. So yeah, the registration website is eventbrite.com. And then you're going to look up Read Across Madisonville 2023. It's also on John P. Parker's Facebook page as well. I think the quickest way get to the right page. And that registration, they're asking for RSVPs by April 23rd. So, all right. So next up on the agenda is a plan by the Department of Transportation Engineering at City of Cincinnati. So that's Senior Engineer Brian Gabot. They are applying for a grant. You wanted to let everybody know that will be some work here in Madisonville.
My name is Brian. I'm with the City of Cincinnati Department of Transportation Engineering. We are beginning the process of design for a shared use path, the next phase of the shared use path on Red Bank Road. This will be similar to the path that's down by the Walmarts in Fairfax. The long range plan was always to take it up to Duck Creek Road, and ODOT with the Eastern Corridor programming, their phased down scale of that work has some remaining funds available. And about a year ago, they reached out to us and said, did we want a free $980,000 to go toward the shared use path? And we said yes. So right now, we, as Carrie alluded to, we are looking for additional funding. We just sent an application in to ODNR for what's called a Clean Ohio Trail Fund grant. So between those two funding sources, we hope to get pretty close to the project cost, which is estimated at about $1.5 million. Speak to this in reference to everything else that's being developed right now. The red dashed line is the project in hand, and then the green dashed line would be some sort of future extension when funding becomes available to connect down to Murray and Wasson Way. And then the future Duck Creek Trail that's identified on there is something identified back in 2010 planning studies. There's no imminent plan for that right now. The only thing that we have on the books right now is the red dash line. Construction is expected to start, if everything goes well, either in calendar year 2025 or 2026. And all of that stuff will be determined. We will have, this is just an introduction to the project. There will be additional information available as the design progresses. The consultant working on the project has pretty much finished up all the field survey. So we're hoping in the next 6 to 12 months, we'll be able to do an open house where everybody can come in, look, see what's going on, put in some input and do all of that. Probably not to another community council meeting because these are all, as you can see, busy already, but have a separate standalone meeting that would be announced through the community council meeting and other city channels. Does anybody have any questions for right now? Yeah. It's a good question because there's no sidewalk right now, is there, on most of it, or it jumps from one side to the other? Yeah. Yes, it is. But right now we're planning for that to be 5 to 10 feet off the curb. And if it's any closer than that, the plan is for a guardrail to be between the car traffic and the path. Yes, so the money that was offered to us by ODOT was only in this area. So we couldn't take it, go down to Murray and Red Bank, start building up with a connection. It seems silly to turn it down just because of that. So that's why we're doing it. Yes, sir.
That money that you're talking about to clear obstructions on Amy Avenue and open the obstruction East 4th.
Not familiar with those obstructions. However, when ODOT offered us this money, the first thing we asked to do was pave Red Bank. And it was outside of the scope of what the state had said.
I just want to follow up. The reason why I'm saying that is that I have a regarding the violations of the federal 504 laws that prohibit areas from handicapped and elderly people, most of whom own property. So before building some more stuff, I need to take down the chain, don't you think?
If we can take a look at that. Do you have some information, like some contact information I can get to you? Okay.
It's going to be on the west side or east side of Red Bank Road.
The current plan is on the west side, across from MedPace.
Figure by Red Dog or that side.
That
not
side of the
other
road,
side
yes. The old drive-in side of the road.
You know, okay, well, that's positive for the neighborhood.
The planned width right now is, or it's like about 12 to 14 feet. The question was how wide the path would be. Lawrence?
So, that red illustration, that goes from what, Red Bank down to where?
That will go from the intersection of Hetzel, where the DMV used to be, at that traffic light, up to Duck Creek, and then go 1 block west to Old Red Bank. And that'll be the limits of the project.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. We will. So the next thing is reports from the community council. So first up is the president's report. I have a copy of that printed off. It should be 3 pages. And I won't go through all of this. The highlights, so the annual neighborhood support program, I will be presenting on Tuesday for approval that we had voted on last month. And that would be the first day that those funds can be expended. So there's some details here on that program in here. The big announcement though is, so last year, the community council voted to send a request to the city to do a traffic study for Madison Road from MedPace Way all the way to the very end at the market. And so that's about ready to kick off. We got the feedback today of a public website for people to leave comments as well as to see all of the information. The way this project is going to move forward is it's going to be an open survey where people can write down their comments and concerns for the corridor at the moment. And then there's going to be 3 meetings. That first meeting, 3 public meetings. So the first meeting will be to collect more input so people can show up and they can talk about what concerns they have right now in the corridor. And then the consultants that the city hired will present data that they collected about, just like the flow of traffic and stuff like that. And then, there'll be an open discussion about what that actually means. There'll be a second meeting where they would take all of that feedback that they've received, and then they will present all that feedback they got in total, present options of what they're recommending of potential redesigns or alternatives for that corridor. And then the third meeting, that's where they'll have like more specific, like what that could actually look like. So it's like 3 kind of steps, 3 public meetings. And so we're working on making some flyers that we can send out to all the businesses along the corridor, drop it off at like the major churches who are going to be feel an impact on this. And the dates for the 3 meetings, which are on here as well. I can go ahead and tell you guys, they're each 2 months apart. That gives them plenty of time to kind of digest everything that they're being told from the community, but also gives the community, plenty of time to think about what they're being presented with. So they have time to kind of digest it themselves as well. So the 3 meetings are on Thursday, May 11th, Saturday, June 22nd, and Thursday, September 28th. So that's Thursday, May 11th at 7 p.m., Saturday, June 22nd at 10 a.m., and Thursday, September 28th at 7 p.m. And so we tried to kind of move one to a weekend just to see if maybe that helps folks with like just a different time than on a weekend, weekday work day night. So we were trying to get a question. Yep. Yep. Yep, that's a typo. Thank you. It should be July 22nd. Sorry about that. That second meeting Saturday, July 22nd at 10 a.m. So we'll post this on our Facebook. Like I said, we're gonna distribute flyers to all major local businesses and major churches. Email it out to all our subscribers as well. And then we're working on trying to figure out how to actually mail out a flyer to every address. We're running low on time, but I think we can kind of get that out to everybody. So that way, literally everybody in the neighborhood is directly notified. So that's what we're working on to make sure we get this right. So the website is already released. And so quick. So this website is kind of a pretty standard website that's commonly used now for public feedback for programs like this. So for example, the state ODOT, they use that all the time. And when you get to the front page, there's just a description. You'll see there's multiple tabs up here at the top. There's just a description of what's going on, what's the project objective, summary of what is going on, and you'll see on the right, you've got a timeline that's going to be updated as we move along through the project. So right now, you're going to see there's survey, and there's a survey listed there, and this is where people can leave their responses of how they feel with the current conditions of how Madison Road is set up. A lot of options. And then there's a really important is there's a map where people can actually drop a pin for a specific thing that is concerning them. So you need to leave comments. So if there's anything specific that you want to elaborate on, you've got that ability to do so. 3 more tabs at the top for each of the 3 public meetings. And this is where the information for them will be, and then you can register here and get updates as everything becomes available. So like when the first meeting happens, this page will be updated with more information that will be presented at the meeting in case you can't make it yourself, or so you can look at it before you go to the meeting. Sign up in here, they will send you updates on email as well. And that's for each of the 3 meetings. All right. That's a lot. It's a huge amount of potential change, I know. Are there any questions about any of this process? This has been something that's been worked on over the past calendar year.
Website.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I do have it listed on the president's report if you have a copy of that already, but it's publicinput.com/Madison Road. We're getting paper copies of the survey printed off that we can hand out for people to fill out as well. And then we can probably submit that separately in case folks aren't online. All right. Okay, seeing none, I will move on. So I will say that the board elected Matt Cable to be the new chair of the beautification committee. He could not be here today because kids are playing sports, but not much of a change there from the committee. The previous chair, Joan Willis, finally stepped down after many years of service. and she gave him a lot of documentation to move forward. So it's mostly going to be unchanged. They are planning on having a cleanup event on Saturday morning, meeting at the Chess Park across from the old library in conjunction with the Madison Youth Community Council. And although the weather's not great, so we're not going to hold it against you if you don't come, but we're just getting that place prettied up, and then we're going to do a litter patrol down Wetzel and down Madison. Go ahead, Ann.
So Stephanie Myers, Matt's husband, or Matt's wife, is on council on the board. And so we're going to have a husband and wife, you know, both on the board.
Right.
Nepotism. Okay. All right. Thanks.
And yeah, here in a minute.
Y'all talking about all the streets in Madison are gonna be surveyed?
No, we was talking about Madison Road. The city has hired a consultant to work to look at options for all of Madison Road from Med Pace Way all the way up to Camargo. So great. I mean, I would imagine a lot of feedback will be about all the trucks hitting the bridge, for example. So this is kind of, we're finally getting the city's undivided attention to kind of fix all the things that people have been frustrated with on the Madison Road corridor.
There's a lot of people who's frustrated about this.
Yeah, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Oh, a lot of people is frustrated and irate with the on the Madison Road, Plainsville, Madeira.
Mhm.
A lot of people is very frustrated. So that's how you get to.
Yeah, so that's an opportunity for people to leave direct feedback with an engineer at the city who can look at potential design alternatives. Yeah.
Oh, they gonna do
Yeah, it includes, it's from that intersection all the way to Med Pace Way. Yes. So it's all inclusive.
was take them up. It's stupid.
Okay, let me see. I think that's all the big items. I will say I do want to say though that this year is an election year for the community council. So if you want to, be great to have high participation in election in November. You need to be an active member, I think, before October to be able to vote in that election. You can see Melissa in the back if you're not already and if you're interested. Also to run for election, the election is for president, vice president, treasurer, corresponding secretary, and recording secretary. So if you're interested in any of those positions, you can check out our bylaws and our standing rules on our website, which talks about what they do. And you just have to be an active member who lives in Madisonville and has attended meetings this year. So we're on that later, especially because in July, we have to set up a nominating committee to start poking people to get them to run for office. So that's another opportunity to get involved if you're interested in steering the course of the organization. We'll get to that in July. I'll move on and stop talking. I will make Kate talk about I Heart Madisonville Day. So I'm going to introduce everyone to Steve. So he has just joined our communications committee. He is very interested in ways to get the community more engaged. So he's got a new initiative that he's going to lead for us, try to figure out how to do better.
Thank you, Carrie. Hi, folks. I'm Steve Seifert. I've seen many of you around. I'm only a new resident. I've been here just a year, so there's a lot I don't know. That means I got a lot to learn, and I'm a very curious person. So one thing I just brought forward to Carrie and some others suggested the idea of putting together a survey. Now, you just heard the word survey, but this is a completely different thing. He was talking about the traffic survey. I'm talking about a community survey. The idea is, my goal would be to hear every neighbor's voice and to make sure that we're listening to everybody, not just those that come to the meeting. Survey can help to identify the community's wants and needs, our common interests,
and the best ways to reach and hear from each other in the future. The results will be shared with everybody. And they will help to provide guidance to the community council. However, it is very important that the survey is created by a diverse group of people. That's something I'm going to do on my own. I'm just going to help coordinate this, the ideas first, so that there's several steps. First, just to create the survey. That's going to take a while. And then we got to distribute it. And then we got to get the results and share the results. And then we make plans. What are you going to do with those results? How are you going to put them into action through whatever we say we do to listen to? So I set up a meeting time, 7 o'clock, May 2nd, here at the rec center. Envelope, it's got my contact information, and we set up an email address called survey@ourmadisonville.com. And again, the idea is we need to hear from people to get involved at this point who are interested in creating a survey. What do you want to see on the survey? What would make the survey a success? Those are the kinds of questions. Need a lot of it. I did. That's the important thing to me. I realized not everybody has a smartphone, not everybody has a computer. So I have a phone number on there, but that's one of the questions we'll figure out is maybe we need even other ways to communicate. It's phone numbers and email addresses. Any other questions?
And they produce, I think, every 2 or 3 years, a community-based survey. I think they normally get about 400 responses. They always have really great information that comes out of it. So is this supposed to be different than that, or is this supposed to supplement that? And what's the end goal of the survey? Is it going to be like a report? Is it going to be used
Those
for
are
campaigning? For
all
community
great
groups?
questions. I don't have answers for. That's what the purpose of the planning meetings would be. I'm not familiar with the survey you're mentioning, so I couldn't say, but I would invite someone to come and represent that survey. And maybe it can be integrated. Maybe it's the same thing. I don't know.
So without knowing a purpose for the survey, the goal is to just have a survey for just random data collection.
The goal hasn't been fully developed yet. That's why I'm bringing people together to discuss it and come up with goals. More question, perhaps?
What is your position? I missed that.
So I just volunteered. I'm not actually, I think it says I'm a council member, but I'm not. Okay, I guess I just got put on the council. I didn't know that. Anyway, so I'm just a volunteer. I'm a resident of Madisonville. Just wanted to help out, and I'm interested in talking with you.
Okay, yeah. Are you going to be here after the meeting? I'd love to chat.
I will.
Okay.
I'll also have this envelope on the back table.
Well, I'll look for you.
So he's a member of the communication committee. So he's taking on this initiative. Yeah. Yep. All right, and I do see the sun is definitely a huge issue. I will have to admit that these blinds are broken. I'm sorry.
Trying to speak and not shield your eyes, just wave your hand if I'm not coming to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, so yeah, I Heart Madisonville Day.
I Heart Madisonville Day. This year it is going to be May 13th, the day before Mother's Day. So we thought a perfect way to not only celebrate mothers, but celebrate everything we love in Madisonville. So on May 1st, we'll be releasing the full schedule of events, businesses that are doing discounts, things you can support in the neighborhood. The Community Council Arts Recs Education Committee is also hosting an I Heart Waffle Brunch. Cost of admission is $5, all you can eat chicken and waffles, as well as a complimentary mimosa for mom, coffee, juice, and anything you could possibly think of to put on a waffle. So if you don't want to cook and you want to celebrate your mother, bring her. If you don't want to cook and you just want to have somebody else clean up after your kids or your family, bring them. We hope to see you there. Again, the rest of the schedule will be released on May 1st. If you are interested in, if you have a business or if you're a resident and you're planning on doing something, please let me know. You can email events@ourmadisonville.com, or you can see me in the back of the room after I fix the square.
All right, thank you. We will move on to agency announcements for our partners here in the. Why is this? Okay, how's that? Is better? Did not talk to you. Kathy, did you have any announcements for Artsville? Okay, come on up.
Give me a mic. So, hi, everybody. I'm Kathy Garrison. I'm the director at Artsville at 5021 Wetzel Avenue. If you haven't been there, we encourage you to come by and see us. On April 22nd, which is this Saturday, we'll be doing the last film of the international film series that we have been doing for the last 9 Saturdays. It is this week. It is A Silent Voice. We do the movie, and then we have some conversation about that film and a little art. So this, again, will be the last of that series. Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock, Playhouse in the Park will be coming in, and they will be doing Nate the Great. That is a free event. Bring your kids. It's always a fun time. So we're looking for a nice crowd. On April 27th, of course, we'll be participating in the Read Across Madisonville at the summit. On May 13th, we'll be doing our Cincinnati Poetry Slam. That is one of a series of 3 that we do every year at Artsville. It'll start at 5 on that evening. We normally have about 14, 15 vendors in addition to the Poetry Slam itself. So if you need information, just give us a buzz. On May 20th, Canva will be coming in with Soul Palette. Those were a group of kids that we have been working with and mentoring through the art process, and they will be preparing their last artwork to be shown in June at Artsville. So we'll let you know what that date is once we get that all set up. The only other thing I'd like to mention right now is in the fall, we're going to be doing a kind of a series of about 8 or 9 mini murals that will go on the side of the building. So I'm going to be looking for probably 8 to 10 serious young artists in the community who would like to help design and create those murals. So if you need anybody or know somebody, let me know. Okay, thank you.
Question 4.
My name is Angie Pearson, and I want to make an announcement.
Was that a question for her? Okay, then. Okay, they have to wait till the end of the meeting. We have announcements at the end of the meeting on the agenda. Yeah. Yeah, a lot. I mean, I don't know. We got a lot of really, really great stuff coming up. I think that people want to stay for. So. Well, that's actually, our agenda is set up this way so that when a developer comes to the community, they have to know what's going on in our community. They can't just show up and leave. I think of our partners in the community, I think Business Chamber, did you guys have any announcements?
Everybody, I'm Chris Schaff. I'm the Vice President of the Business Chamber. Let you guys know we are having our monthly meetings. They're for the businesses in the community. So whether you're a member or not in your business, you can show up second Wednesday of every month from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. That's just a networking meeting. So it's for us to get together, talk about our businesses, help each other out, things like that. The May 10th meeting is at Element Eatery, again from 9 to 10. And then we've also been hosting a lunch and learn for businesses. So we just had one this past Monday from First Financial, hosted at Artsville. It was well attended. So thank you, Kathy, for hosting, and also for First Financial for presenting. We will be continuing to host those. So if you check out our website, it's madisonvillebc.com. We put all of our events on the calendar there for you to take a look at if you out. The other thing we mentioned was the market that's hosted at MedPace is on Saturday, the 29th. We actually have 60 vendors, businesses coming for that. It's a free event for the community. And we're happy to say we've had a lot of more participation from Madisonville-based businesses. Thanks to the, I believe, Madisonville Moms blog or Facebook page, helped get the word out there. So we did get an uptick in participation there as well. So come check it out. Be happy to see you guys there. The chamber website's madisonvillebcbusinesschamber.com. Yep.
Make sure you can make that announcement later on. Yeah, that's with a partner organization. Good. But what that segment of the agenda is for, from organizations in the neighborhood. So next up on that agenda for this section is a volunteer, Sarah Strauss-May, who's working with Union Baptist Church for a historical marker here in Madisonville at the United American Cemetery. I'm gonna give a quick.
I'll try to make this quick. But I know that there's a lot of questions about the United Colored American Cemetery on Duck Creek. I was asked to come here tonight to speak about the history marker, but Harry, I'd like to invite myself back because I feel like there's so much going on behind the scenes, and a lot of people have expressed to me they have family in that cemetery and they want to know what's going on. I don't know if I have time to speak to that directly tonight, but I can give you my email. My email is my name, Sarah Strauss May @gmail. And the spelling on the agenda is actually the correct spelling, thank you, of my name. So the History Marker Project, many of you may know Chris Hanlon. He has been industrious when it's coming to writing the history of Madisonville. He wrote and received National Historic Designation for the United Colored American Cemetery. So your cemetery, this neighborhood cemetery, is now on the National Historic Register of Places and will be protected by the federal government. In addition to that, gosh, if I start crying, it's just because, oh my gosh, there's so much. There recently was a bill signed into law, thanks to Senator Sherrod Brown. And I always forget the name of the bill. I'm looking at Mark Jeffries to see if you remember it. It is basically the African American Burials Act, and it provides federal money to protect Black resting places. It's so overdue. The cemetery here in Madisonville is a result of a lot of political conflict that happened in Cincinnati. The first race riot in Cincinnati was in 1826, and they brought cannons to the game. It was not good, and 3/4 of Black Cincinnatians left. Many of them returned by 1830. Fast forward to the 1840s, United American Colored Association raised funds to buy the very first cemetery in Cincinnati for Black people. It was not legal to bury African Americans with whites. And as many of you know, it was not really legal to do much if you were African American in Cincinnati. By the 1840s, they had bought property in Avondale. By the 1880s, it was closed due to political action. That's how you got to have United Colored American on Red Bank. Going back to Senator Brown's bill that's now law, Union Baptist Church has received $160,000 of an appropriation to catalog and protect the almost 200 years of archives associated with this cemetery and the Union Baptist Cemetery. So we are currently creating a request for proposals for a database, and I'm getting way off topic to this marker, but there's so much history behind these words. And these words were based on Chris Hanlon's work on the National Historic Registration, the Register. And I did write based off of his writing, but I'm encouraging people to look further into the writing. I can't go into everything that's happened. There's 200 years of very important things that have happened. My hope is with this marker, if it gets approved, my hope is that people will take a moment to stop in Madisonville and think about what's happened here. And the same for Dunbar, for the Dunbar sign. The state program, I have written a marker previously. I have a relationship with the people in Columbus. They're very interested in these two markers. They are due May 1st. I think Declan and I are submitting next week before the deadline. And then we wait. My proposed dedication date is Juneteenth of 2024. Before we get to that date, I want everyone to know there is an advisory committee working on more things. There's so much work to do. There's 100 years of work that's overdue, and we know it, and we know it's painful, but we're working on it. And I would like to come back and bring updates as we go. So we got some successes. Hopefully he's watching. So what happened? Do I have time to go into it? I mean, because honestly, I could come back for another 3 or 4 hours to talk about it. Briefly, what happened is there was a man named George Washington Williams who was a Black elected state representative, and he represented Cincinnati. He was a pastor at Union Baptist Church. We don't know how it happened, but he wrote legislation to close that cemetery that was owned by his community. We don't know the exact details. The word on the street is it was a race thing. Some people think it was the Jewish people. I am actually a Jewish researcher. It's not the Jewish people. They weren't in Avondale until the 1890s. And this started happening in the 1870s. But it definitely was a white-black thing, I think. Yeah, I mean, the newspapers of the day basically make that point. There's also a layer of cholera that was involved at the time. There was a statewide movement to close cemeteries in any city center, including a lot of the Jewish cemeteries, because they thought that dead bodies spread cholera, which was not true.
And then we also heard that after they couldn't get anywhere with the Ohio State and pleaded their so they dug
It wasn't okay. And it was complicated.
Well, they dug up the bodies, right?
In 1883, they started transferring the bodies to Madisonville.
And that's what they did.
Right.
They dug them up. At the time, there were creeks there. So actually, the man who, I guess, he was the architect of Spring Grove, was the one for
right. So the architect of Spring Grove Cemetery, which is the second largest cemetery in the country, was Adolph Strauss. He was a renowned landscape architect. United Colored American Cemetery was his last project before he died. That is definitely a point that was made clear in the National Historic Register application, and it's referenced in our plaque. For me, I try to read more than what's on the page. For a Black community that is underrepresented in a wider community to have the ability to work with Adolph Strauss was kind of big deal. It was a big deal. And again, like I could go on for hours about this history. And I really encourage people to email me with any, I know your family is involved, and I will be the person, I believe I am going to be the person to get volunteers started on cataloging the history we don't already have. But we're still a few steps away from doing that. So these are the words that I am proposing. The state reserves the right to change them. The state. Unfortunately, no. But email me, please email me if you have a direct concern. Ma'am. No, email me. Okay. Let me know.
I have a question. Yes. I'm not a resident of Madisonville. But I am interested in any history that has anything to do with folks.
Yes.
So how can I have information from you?
Well, my first recommendation.
What's going on?
Yeah, no, I would recommend that you read anything and everything written by Nikki Taylor. She was once a professor at University of Cincinnati, but she's now a professor of history at Howard. And she does occasionally come back to give talks here, but her books are the textbook of Cincinnati. Her research area was Black Cincinnati, period. I have learned a lot, obviously, from Chris, but I also try and take time to look at microfilm in the library. Or we had, I think, 3 or 4 Black newspapers in the 19th century and early 20th century. And yeah, I mean, email me. I would love to get coffee.
Can I get your email? Is there paper in back there?
My name is on the agenda, Sarah Strauss May, and my email is just at Gmail. So my hope is that we do good by the community. That's really what we're all trying to do with the cemetery restoration, but it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of money. Sarah Strauss May. Yeah, I got married. I was Sarah Strauss when I lived in Madison.
That's the next item on our agenda. I'm skipping ahead. Yeah, so yes, there is this, so first off, for Sarah's presentation, there were handouts for her wording. However, we're now moving to the Dunbar community, and that is this guy that says the Dunbar community on top. So if there's not enough copies, please share with your neighbor. But this is City Council member Mark Jeffries with the City of Cincinnati. And he's here to talk about a proposed plaque and something that he's asking of the community council.
Thank you. So we intentionally put these back to back. And I'll give a little background on why we're doing this. We put it back to back because I think Sarah mentioned the deadline for submitting any historic markers to the state of Ohio is in May. So you need to submit it. You need to have an organization submit it. So Unity Baptist Church is submitting the one for the cemetery. Then the city, my office, is going to submit the one for Dunbar. We will be submitting, asking for a grant. It's about a $4,000 charge for each plaque. But I have gotten the commitment from, I asked the city manager, if we don't get that, can the city cover it for both? And we will. So that's $8,000. So we'll cover that charge, which is good. So this came out of a lot of work that got involved with the cemetery and the cleanup, getting the health commissioner out there to assess the soil. And as we started having discussion with folks, I see many people here in the room on the community of Dunbar, they said, hey, we want an acknowledgement. You know, these are important for telling stories, especially in communities where they aren't there anymore, as is the case here in Dunbar. And so we started engaging with folks, as I said, many folks here in the room, at New Mission Baptist Church a couple of times on, okay, what would we want this to say? That was step one. And then second is where does the community want to put it? And so looked at several options, went out to different options, and some of the elders in the community said, hey, this is where we want it. So I'm not going to walk through detail of what is on the screen here, but I'll highlight a few things. So Dunbar, known as Corsica Hollow, African-American neighborhood once located in this area, streets and lots laid out in 1886. Some of the other highlights, most of the folks were from the South. It was home to New Mission Baptist Church, original location, and obviously now a different location. Original church built a single room, heated by coal stove. And then gradually over time, small businesses, many of them noted there, were built up. Because it was, and this is on the back of it, an African-American neighborhood, residents often faced institutional racism. There was a 30-year campaign to install a water main within the neighborhood. Finally succeeded in 1940. There, of course, was the Dunbar incineration, which spit out ash and soot. And in other neighborhoods in the city, there were controls for the ash and soot put on. You understand, obviously, the theme here. And then, of course, the Red Bank Expressway completely decimated the neighborhood. In effect, what we have here today on Corsica Place, which if you think Red Bank, Corsica, where Best Point is, and Fry Health, we've identified the corner there as the location. We've been working with Best Point, so you have to get approval from the organization. Yes, we agree to put it there. And then you have to have someone agree to maintain the sign, which really means once a year taking some soap and water to it. And that's where the community council comes in, that asking the community council to commit to, go out there once a year and clean it. Basically, that's part of the commitment that the state asks for. So similar timing to what Sarah mentioned. These usually take about a year, believe it or not, to get approved. So the hope similarly is next Juneteenth around that time. We'll obviously leave it up to the community to figure out what that looks like. We'll do an unveiling. And the nice thing about that area actually is there's a little grassy area, maybe, trees or a bench or something can be put there to make it a little more inviting, place. So that's a little bit of the background. Oh, good. You see it right there. Thank you. Helpful. So any questions, and anyone who wants to weigh in, who's been a part of this process, please.
First of all, Mr. Jeffries, I would like to thank you personally for taking a personal interest in Madisonville. Madisonville is a community that has been victimized by the at-large representation system of city council. That city council people to ignore Madisonville for years and years and years. That's why Dunbar was wiped out, is because developers were able to come in, and because profits are more important than Black people's history, our history was wiped out there completely. And with what you were doing, you were at least letting people know that Black lives have always mattered. I just want to say something in regard to the previous presentation, because if it wasn't for your intervention when myself, Michael Green, and Elijah Newberry went down to city council. I carry my father's flag, who's buried in that cemetery. If it wasn't for you who listened to us and then called for a health department investigation, nothing would have been done. Nothing would be done. And so I just want to applaud your efforts to do that.
For all the hard work for the cemetery. The Douglas School was started by Mr. Early, And he was in that cemetery. He started the school. Yeah, and I want to have to preserve our history. And a lot of Black people now are going back to their ancestors. Part of our family. We want to thank you for the hard work that you did for Dunbar and for the cemetery. But Dunbar, there's people here that lived in Dunbar that's in this meeting now. That was there 5 generations ago. So it's very important, and we.
Also, I want to say thank you, Jeffrey, for listening to us when we went down here to ask you to take interest in the Black Cemetery. Thanks for being collaborative. We appreciate you for the interest that you had given us and the whole community. Thanks a lot. And you have my vote.
Wondering if we have a listing of people who were residents of Dunbar, current list, people now, and if we know somebody, I do know somebody who's a relative. I think it's important that we honor those people. At least we know who they are.
I think some are here today.
Yeah, I live in Dunbar. Over. Some had running water, some didn't. Townhouse, but we all survived in Dunbar. And we love Dunbar because the people there, they work together. If I didn't have things for dinner, they would talk, they would feed us. So Dunbar was a community of love. And that's what I want Dunbar to remember as. Like one another.
Also lived in Dunbar over. We lived in Dunbar. My father purchased a bedroom house. He made it. I also was with the Mission Baptist Church when they marched up to on Ravenna, and special place to a lot of us at unions. And also this thing about the plaques. I'm not understanding. But I see my grandfather is on here, my great uncle is on. So I mean, whatever it is, the involvement. I also lived in Dunbar, and I was the last person out. Contrary. I remember when we came. I think.
Another thing I would also like to. It's inhumane. My family, we go there every Memorial Day to celebrate. A lot of whatever they need to do to make it a place.
I can speak a little bit to your concerns. I can't speak a lot because there's pending litigation right now. The litigation is public, so if you Google United American Cemetery and Fifth Third Bank, you will be able to read what's going on. That alone has kept us from moving forward because it became an unsafe place. Problems didn't start in this century. I do want to add that there are 3 Dunbar residents who are doing some heavy lifting behind the scenes. Jacob and Claudette Moody, if anybody remembers, and their cousin Denise. So behind the scenes, what we're doing is trying to lay the groundwork to have the funding to make this permanent fix, to make sure that there's the ability to care for this place in perpetuity. But it's going to take time. To mow the lawn between 2 cemeteries is $40,000 a year, and they take that out of tithes right now. There is a GoFundMe campaign if anyone would like to contribute, but right now the lawn mowing is coming out of church donation. And again, there's a group of about 12 of us behind the scenes that have been writing grants, have been working with the government, have been beg, stealing, and borrowing to try and make things different. But it's going to take time, but it's changing. We're getting there.
And just to clarify, I realized I forgot I didn't download a better image, but this is the type of marker that it will look like. So like you might be familiar, so it'll be a bronze metal marker.
Said. Sit out. Listening to those who are time. Or should you recommend? Little do you know. In our conversation, different here. Don't even know Madison. They know that. They don't really know. They don't lay it up. Embry Lane. Avenue, East Florida. The list goes on. Fargo. All of these things. The big areas. I'm gonna be the best time. What's happening now? Parents, incredibly degraded situation such as that cemetery. They should have honor attached to that, where it is to our ancestors that are still there and know about it. We got to I was totally wiped out. Few people knew about the history. Thank God for my brother. So, you know, he and I were on the same church. God has got to have you back together. More people that are really willing to find out what's going on in this history, because that history guys.
I lived here 65 years. I road, I had no idea until recently the history of the cemetery. Robert Dunbar, one up. We're up 5 years. But at the end of the day, it's so rewarding. All the negativity in politics and all the negativity out there, see something like this, it just brings joy to me as somebody has lived out here 65 years. I want to thank you, Councilman Jeffries. Everybody's involved. It should have been done a long time ago. God, it's being done now. Thank you.
I would like to see if we could get Chris Hanlon to come to the council meeting, or a couple of times maybe throughout this summer to show his presentation from Dunbar community. I'm not sure if anybody has been to that, but I went to it when it was presented at church about what, 2 months ago. So Sarah, I don't know if you are connected on that, but that presentation really should be shown here in the community, maybe our new library. And I did talk to him about it. He said he was willing to do it. So I hope we can get that to fruition.
Just for consideration, it wouldn't be, it shouldn't be a problem if you could upload these into videos and upload them onto YouTube so that anyone, anywhere has an interest to go and get all the information. I just heard you mention about someone that's doing a documentary. I call it a documentary, but it was referred to as a presentation. So that information should be available to anyone that's interested on YouTube.
I think it is available on YouTube somewhere. Somebody can send it out. It was phenomenal. About 2 months ago.
Anybody is watching from MKirk, they did a wonderful Madisonville Stories segment a couple of years ago. This would be a great opportunity to interview a lot of our Dunbar residents.
It is on YouTube. If you type in people who made Madisonville into the search, it pops up as the first one. So you can watch it anytime you want.
Sam, you just reminded me, I forgot a really big announcement. There's a program on PBS that's shown internationally called The World's Greatest Cemeteries. There's a PBS program called The World's Greatest Cemeteries, and it is produced by a man named Roberto Maidi. And he has chosen United American Cemetery to be featured on the next season. So this is not a local community. Your ancestors, I feel like I commune with your ancestors every day. They left such a treasure, and it's not local. It's not even national. The history that they created is important for all of the world, in my opinion. And I'm kind of set to make sure that's everybody's opinion.
I want to also say, because I know that you're being delicate, but in certain things you shouldn't be delicate. Don't be afraid to call that the colored cemetery. No. Listen. Don't be afraid to call it that because that's what we call it. And we're proud of that word more than the American part because we've been treated more like we're colored people than American. So don't get rid of that colored part just to put the American in because we were never treated like Americans. That's why the cemetery was separated in the first place. Thank you.
Thing is, we're sensitive. Words like such as what we're talking about right now have so much meaning, you just can't just pass it aside. History that hasn't been told. I forbid, Lord, live on. Then it's 11. I mean, all the rest have to pick it up from there. You know, their association of the underground in itself has in all of the different. Absolutely. That we didn't have running water when we lived in. And, if it had not been for the fact that I love for our people and respect. That area, don't count that.
Shared at 2005, 2006. I was working with Ruth Zalk, a former historian of the area. Where this building was built, it was commissioned, put together a timeline that was originally supposed to encircle this whole building. It never got done. But at Chris Palin's presentation, I put out on the table a copy of the timeline that Ruth was all put together. And one of the few facts that's not known, where Ruth got some of her notes was through the original Methodist church, Methodist community, this area. And some of the first free slaves came to this area in 1810. And it's never been documented. If you go down with the Freedom Center or anyplace else, it's not documented there, but it was documented with the Methodist community early in Madisonville. That was one of the things I learned from Ruth when working with Ruth. So it's something we should be proud of in terms of this community, that this community hosted one of the first free slave communities in all of greater Cincinnati. And it's something that we need to constantly bring to the historians of Cincinnati, and that the free slave community started here in this community.
Well, thank you everyone for the opportunity and the input. This is super helpful. I look forward to, well, it'll be before next June, but certainly coming out then for dedication and then also this Memorial Day at the cemetery as well. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a business item that he is asking for the community council to do, for members to vote on to approve. So that's what I have up here, had some print offs. This is dated April 21st, which is tomorrow. And so the request that he's asking of the Madisonville Community Council is that he would write this letter that will be submitted in the packet. And it would be for the maintenance agreement for the sign in perpetuity. So if it was ever damaged, lost, or stolen, the agent entity who replaced the sign on an annual basis, the community council would be required to keep it clean, basically wash it off essentially. And so this specific wording is from that packet, and these are the requirements that they're asking of. Okay, let's call Ann's hand up first. Well, no, you
gotta say it.
Okay, say that one, the microphone.
Motion that we agree to stipulations that are put forth in the,
Motion by Mike Ty, seconded by Ann Bolin. Now we open it up for discussion. Hands up first, and then Dave Capitzer.
Before the letter is sent, there are some typographical errors that need to be corrected. The date is 22. Year is 22, should be 23. It's not the current slate of officers. And there's a typo in the very last bullet point. So.
Yep. Thank you. Dave Capitzer.
Oh, in Ann's comments, I would like to make a motion that the discussion be concluded in the light of the previous discussion taking place in here in this room tonight. I make a motion that the discussion be concluded at this time so we can go to a motion to vote.
Wants to close debate. Is there a second? Second by Kate Botos. Okay, so we go into a vote now of community council members, because I believe this is a legal arrangement between the community council. Thank you. Sorry. So we have to, so community council members need to vote on closing discussion. So by show of hands, active members, how many would like to close debate? Okay, keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Show of hands, are there any no's? See none. And by show of hands, are there any abstentions? I see one. So the yeses pass, and we will vote on the item. Thank you. Okay, so for active community council members, by show of hands, how many yeses do I have? 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 26, 27. Thank you. By show of hands, are there any no's? I see none. And by show of hands, do I have any abstentions? See none. So this have it. Tomorrow, I will fix the random and sign it and send it to Mark Jeffrey's office to be submitted with the packet. Right. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is a presentation by Dave Johnson. He is property owner here in Madisonville. He has a large handouts there for folks to pass around.
Evening, everybody. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I know it's a lot that's been going on tonight. What a historical night for Madisonville. It's good to hear a lot of things for the Dunbar community. And I'm born and raised in Madisonville. For those who don't know me, my parents are buried at Laurel Cemetery. My mom and dad. My mom just passed last month, so I'm born and raised here in Madison. It's good to see the passion that we all have for our community. What I have in front of us is this kind of came organically. I've been buying property in Madisonville because I wanted to invest in where I lived in and invest in the community that I cared about, and I still care about. So I just bought a piece of property that I closed on in November, and that's why I'm bringing it up now, that I'm able to move forward with this type of development. And I really want to get some feedback from the community. I've always loved our input and how passionate we are about things that we believe in and things that we say. So this is just kind of a conversation. There's no asks for support tonight. It's just more of a conversation going on Bramble and Wetzel. So that's what I want to kind of bring to you this evening. So Carrie, if you want to, thank you. So that's the site down where Wetzel dead ends into Bramble Avenue. I own a lot of property down there, and it's kind of been an area that's kind of been underserved for us for a while. I've tried to get grants and do things like that, and it just seems like I always run against a brick wall with that area. It is a predominantly African-American business owners down there. It's by design, women, minority business owners. We do a good job down there making sure we're represented. The stuff across the street, I kind of run out of tenants. Can't really afford the rent, and there's not parking down there. There's always been an issue down at Bramble and Wetzel for parking. And so with parking being at a premium, and now these new businesses coming in, there's no street parking and there's no parking lot. So that's where this came to fruition, where I was thinking about what I always hear is, hey, Dave, you got a place that we can rent? Hey, do you have a property we can rent? Everybody's looking for housing, but everybody's not really looking for retail. We got so much stuff at Madison and Wetzel here and everywhere else that's just vacant commercial stuff. So we got enough commercial stuff. What about some places that we can move in? That's what I've been kind of working on. And I've been working with a Vandercar, which is a Madisonville company, and they've gone to mentor me as a new Black developer to kind of figure out this space. So I got with Vandercar here. He's come to answer a few questions if there are that I can't answer, but we're just kind of working a lot of the stuff I don't know. There's some things I don't know, and I'm not going to act like I know it all. And that's why help me out. A little more background. I was a fire captain out here in Madison. I've been a firefighter for 32 years. So I know this neighborhood. I know where the streets are. I know where people are hitting at. I just know the background. So I do have a passion for this whole project. As you see what we have here, there's like, and I don't want to be, I know how we are. I don't want to be locked into words that I don't know the answers to yet. So that's why this is more of a conversation. I am going to meet with the city in a few weeks. They have what they call a coordinated site review. So they can actually look at the site with what we're looking at trying to do, see if it can even be done. Sewer issues, you got water issues, you got maybe a road that has to be, it's Bramble. You know how Bramble kind of goes down in that little dip. There might be walls. So there's things we're going to be looking at. But I just want everybody to kind of wrap their eyes around it. If you want to walk the site, feel free to walk the site. I'm sorry. We got a Gappy Cafe down there. You got to go check out Dutch. You got a great food right there. You got a Gappy Cafe running the corner. Okay, so right here, well, this space right here, I got 31 townhomes that we're looking at. Some of them can be one bedroom, some of them be a three. I'm going to kind of move on with the slides. I'll give you a little idea of what this looks like. Bramble goes down the hill, as you guys can imagine, coming from Adelphi and all that comes down the hill. So they show the 3-story. It's really a 2-story because it kind of dips down. Go with the flow of how on Bramble already. And if you want to go again, in slides of some of the renderings. So right here is this is like a pitched roof.
which I really think is better for Madison. That's what we have. There's another rendering that has kind of a traditional looking roof with these townhomes. But these are 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath townhomes, 2-car garages. That's kind of like, you know, I see a lot of people, and I hear a lot of people say, well, I want to sell my house, but I want to stay in. Well, they can easy to get around, you know, it's somewhat affordable. That's going to be all into us truly finding what those numbers look like as we continue to build out this idea. But that's kind of the I guess if we call it the face, you know, the smile on the face of the property. But I really want to get some buy-in from the community. I have a lot more questions than I have answers at this point. Like I said, I just closed on this other piece of property in November, and I got another piece in last month. So I finally have all the pieces I need to kind of start moving forward. That's why I wanted to bring it up at this meeting for a conversation, and maybe bring something else back next month as we start vetting this. Send this to the community council board, MCUR, the Madison Business Chamber, and some other people in the neighborhood to share with the neighborhood. And some of those plans that I have out there, those are just to look at if you didn't get that information. So just wanted to kind of engage the community on my passion, which is my home, Madisonville. So I don't want to waste too much more time, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Yeah. That's going to be done with the coordinated site review. That's where all the different players come in and they'll be able to vet out that problem. Phase 2 and all those, exactly, yeah. That's something that we'll be looking at. You'll be coming with just okay.
And then I had a question about maintenance of properties and what your plan was to maintain street level.
So that'll be part of an HOA. We'll have a property management company taking care of that. This will be a little bit more for me to be dealing with. So I'm going to be hiring a property management company to take care of all of that. There's green space in the back of this area. You'll see where there's. What I'd love to do is be able to some of these streets. You know, my mom just passed last month, so name of Catherine Way or James Place. Maybe have a marker for them. Just they're in Laurel. This is my home. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. You know. More questions from my other tenants. Like, hey, you about to sell this property? Let us know. No. Yeah, as far as those things, we'll be looking at all those other.
On the conceptual plan, just appears that access to that entire development would be on Arnsby. For somebody who lives on Arnsby, I see that as a really high increase in traffic in that particular area. So would it be more beneficial, more considerate to those in the neighboring areas to have, if this does come to fruition, that be a 4-way intersection?
Now that's something that they might be able to tell us, like maybe ODOT or something. But as far as like the coming down that small piece of Arnsby where there's a couple 4 families and the Barbies where I just bought their house, and then the open lot there. I don't know that there'll be any more traffic, maybe on that little piece of Arnsby, but right now on Bramble, it's a mess up there. I had 13 commercial storefronts that had people coming in and day out. There was no park. Even the people that worked there was nowhere to park. We had a yoga studio. It was just so on Bramble. Now with Mom and them, Agape Cafe and Madison Lounge and the barbershop. I mean, we've always had a problem with parking down on that block. And at least the traffic that would come in, maybe it would be at hours where they're going to work or coming back. All these places will have at-home office in as well. So there's like, it could be a dining area or at-home office or whatever someone wants to make it. It's being pitched as like a place that you can work at home. So there's 2-car garages in all of them except for the 1-bedrooms that we do that concept. Everything is really price dependent, but we will look into traffic studies and see if that creates a burden on that portion.
Dave, were you looking at a TIF there, or I think TIF abatement, that area needs help. I agree with that.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. It's so early in this. When we meet with the city in a few weeks for the coordinated site review, it really will give us an idea. You know, I used to sit in these meetings too, and I'm like, these people coming in, what? Because I'm not that guy. I would just borrow up a credit card. Like, this stuff is expensive. This stuff is. I don't know, but we, you know, that's why I want to find out before I come and ask for anything. I want to make sure I do my diligence. I'm not looking for a handout. If that's
Finally, I do see a problem. First, definitely, I know we go way back. I want to approve this. Do you have to access from a Zillow or Ormsby to make this work? Can you, I mean, we're kind of going into neighborhood. Like we talked about earlier today, could you use the driveway where Bramble Motor used to be, come in off of Bramble in the back, does have parking back that way and not utilize? I mean, it is a residential street, and the fellow here talked about additional traffic. It's ideal that we were going to set this up from the beginning 50 years ago. You probably could have done that way, but there is an existing community back there that could be a problem. So last question. So you're tearing down where the old Bramble Motor used to be all the way down to the tattoo place?
no, not the tattoo place. I don't own that building anymore. I sold that to Free. So it's the white building right before you get to that tattoo place and the old flower shop that used to be there. It's right to that point.
Okay.
Yeah. To your question about maybe access, those will be good questions that we can ask the city. You know, when that we have that coordinated site review to see if there is a better way to do it. Right now, it does seem like it's just a continuation of a great neighborhood on Orange. It would flow really nice. Right on Orange. So if anyone is interested in walking the 3-bedroom concepts, they've actually got these developed out on called Merchant Drive out in Tri-County. The old I think it was G or not sure the it's over there was Shakely Market. My wife and I walked and I'm like, be amazing. Something we'll look into. Questions? Sir. When you first started this move, there's a lot of property. Shiesty. On a sale, but they couldn't. Consequently, gave people to the cash. So now, this is so important. Evils that are done, they're evil. That are done to these people. Process of rebuilding and redeveloping. Think about developing some kind of means of saving these folks who have lost everything they had. It's inadequate. Have a few. However, they have had generational money that solved the development. Our developers didn't have it. Sure, absolutely. And to your point, I'm not a developer from outside this community. This is my community. I grew up here and learned from all. Bishop Nichols, my preacher right there at New Jerusalem, right on the corner of Madison and Wetzel. So I mean, I just know the neighborhood, and I'm very interested in the feedback and concerns of the whole. I'm new to this space. I want to be a black developer in this space. So this is all new. I've been a fireman 32 years. It's like I'm getting ready to retire, but I'm so interested in like I can do some things. I really looked at this project for an affordable, you know. It's like, what do I do? You know, I've been blessed to have this. Be able to found some really good people to help me. I started investing, you know, when I was 40 years old. So it's good. And do something like this and get feedback that I can. Sir.
Just to make sure I understand, so instead of, using the retail spaces and revamping them to keep retail revenue in Madisonville, you're suggesting creating additional housing.
That is correct. Yeah. So I've owned those properties down there for 23 years. I've never had them fully occupied. I've always had trouble. And the main reason I can't get anybody in the retail is there's no parking. It was way back in the day, and I was trying to work with, councils way before. It's like, hey, listen, we put a parking lot. Something happened. We had a grant that came and then they didn't give it. This is driving me crazy. What's going on here? And then the liability of going down the hill and people coming up, they feel comfortable. It's been like one, roadblock after the other. It's like it just doesn't work well for that much retail. I got all the stuff across the street. Rashida has walls of wellness. She got Gabby that's got Fillmore Wasteland. She got Hollywood Mandate Goods. She got Dutch on the corner. She got Madison Lounge. Got Distinguished Trust. We got great things. Got mom in there. I probably in that building. This would be perfect. It's supposed to make sense. People to that little area. Madison and Wetzel and that was not working. Retail wasn't working.
My other question is, a subdivision potentially exacerbates parking issue, then we potentially have enough spaces for residents, but visitors, either.
So as you come into Ormsby, you see some of the parking spaces there, but most of these have two-car garages. People aren't. I mean, so it's like we like the walkable bike. Everybody talks about that, and it's we're hoping that. Who knows where, hopefully the rest. I want to be in this community. I want to stay here, retire with dignity and respect. And I walk out the back, take the dog to the little park in the middle. Or I can walk down the Bramble Park. I can wave at the people from the street like they always do. It's just, building that same sense of community. I have more people call me about somewhere to live than they do about some place to rent in their store. I've been here for 30 years. I do more of that. So I know that there's a need for
And those are beautiful buildings. The buildings I'm tearing out, they're beautiful buildings.
Major concern. And my concern is, I think one is really great. And I think that a lot of investors, a lot of buildings, apartment buildings, all sorts of things are going up on every corners, all these apartments. But a lot afford to move into those places. So one bedroom start off like $1,500 just for one bedroom. And the agony about it is that a lot of these apartments that are charging this high rent, got a lot of apartments are just sitting there. Why? Because the housing is really going down. The housing for people to stay in, for people to live, that's really going down. But people are still building houses all over, and people can't afford to move in those. So I'm just wondering, with all and this high rent and high mortgage and all of that, who are we expecting to move in there? What kind of community are we really trying to have? And for who and what? Even for senior citizens, people who move out of their homes into apartments, some of them may as well stay in their homes because the apartments are more than what they're paying for while they're still there in their houses. So I just have a major concern about that. Because me, I've been looking for a whole month trying to find me a place to move by myself. And most of these places are starting off like $1,500. That kind of money. And that's a house mortgage. That's the mortgage. And some people who live in houses don't pay that much. So I just have a major concern is with all these buildings going up, these new buildings, these condos, these townhouses, and all these, they're making them where nobody can really afford to move in these places. Where are the people going to come from to pay to live in these places? Because if can't build, then surely there's things that have to be paid for. How are you going to meet that? How are you going to pay that if you can't get people to move in to pay rent or the mortgage or whatever it is for? So, I just need somebody to help me with this, because there's no place, the housing is really bad. We got all kinds of new apartment buildings and condos and everything going up, but people can't afford to move anywhere. Not even senior citizens. They can't move from their houses into an apartment. They want to move out, but they can't because it's more to move into an apartment now than it is just to stay where you are in your house with all that overhead. So I just wanted to speak on that because I'm looking at a lot of that going around now. And it's really awful. Because people who work every day, like I do, and I can say I make a substantial amount of money, but I'm not going to go and pay $1,500 to live in an apartment. That's a house mortgage just about. So I'm just wondering how that's going to work out for people that need to move into, decent places.
That's a good question, and that's why when we really go to the city and kind of see what costs for this whole thing, for me to say what it would be right now would just be way too premature. There's a lot of work that has to be done to get all that stuff vetted out. So, but I do understand that. I do appreciate that.
I agree with the same observation, concern about affordability. I think we all know that these are not going to be affordable housing. You can look at the drawings, what it would cost. If it was possible to have a smaller format, studio units or other footage, or to hit a lower price point. So that'd be interesting and hopefully would work. 2005. But my question was about are they going to be condo units though, or are they going to be actual ownership?
Yeah, they're all gonna. I'm not selling any of them. That's really by design. I think those questions that come up, with the four. I could address it. It's something that, this is my neighborhood. Like I said, I can look at all those things. And yeah, and that's one reason, like you mentioned, the one bedroom, but that's. Gonna be nice units. They are gonna be nice. I don't know what that looks like. All the other development costs and everything. Everything costs a lot. And as we move on, then we'll be able to see what it drive down those costs. More.
I'm glad to see that you as an African American that you're able to invest in your community. Great thing. But the way market, I would say that once you get through, African Americans are not going to benefit. For right now, I can't really count how many black people. Project or development.
Well, I hope you're wrong. Yeah. I appreciate that, Mr. Bishop. And one thing I would say to that is we are going to benefit. Because I got all black owned businesses down there, it's going, everybody that's there, if we can't get into the town, they're going to be spending money at all our businesses that we're going to have there, we're going to keep there. They're going to be able to spend money and take care of all these businesses that have been working hard and trying to get people to come down the whole time. There's more than just a one-prong approach to this. There's a whole lot of things that come with development. I have taken all that stuff into consideration, but first things first, once we get an idea of what that looks like, then we'll be, I do appreciate you saying that.
I like the fact that you said. Sure. We have talked with me. This community should be, five businesses. Community. We need to help them. Make sure when we say it's affordable, it's affordable. They tell me $1,000. Say that you're being affordable to the people.
Dave, I might have missed this because I did step out. I apologize if you've already answered it. What are the going to be the range of prices for the 3 bedrooms and the 1 bedrooms?
Yeah, we haven't really, and I wanted to, I don't want to give a price range because I don't really know. Until we really be able to drive the prices down, with talking to because we don't know what it costs to develop. That's why this is more of a conversation than it is, hey, we need your support. What that might even look like.
The rumor was that it was going to be close to $3,000 for the 3 bedrooms.
No, from what the developer was telling me, maybe 2,500 to 2,600 for the 3 bedroom. That's with the bonus, at-home office, 2-car garage, stuff like that. Now I know, I think that Oakley or Madison and Riz, they're charging like 3,800. I mean, that's ridiculous. But I don't even know where these people are coming from that can afford these stuff. Don't get me wrong. To me, it's just, I've owned property out here forever. I'm like, you're getting what? I have a tenant right now that's staying in a 4-bedroom house on Bramble paying $850 a month. And she's been with me forever, and her rent ain't going up. It's like, no, you're good. And you need to buy this house. You've been here really long. 15 years. So it's stuff like that I'm not an outsider trying to get in nobody's pockets. I'm good. I just want to bring something good and better to the neighborhood. That's all I want to do.
And then when you presented to the board, you said something about having 20% of it affordable.
Yeah, that was my plan in talking. Because we were trying to look at the AMI now, and affordable isn't like low income stuff. It's going to work every day and being able to do it. Prices and the interest rates and material, I'm learning all this. I'm going to be better buying a house in rehab. I've done that my whole life. Getting a lot of help. Or a super dense where you put 50 units on. This is not gonna, it doesn't become an affordable mode. And all the city people can tell you how that looks. But I'm learning. I talk about Kid Carter and Bob Birch, Boyd Hacker. I was talking to all these people, and they're like, this is a lot of work. So walking through this, and they have been helpful with that, and that's what we're going to go through in the next couple of weeks.
So the plan today is no affordable housing, all market rate.
All market rate.
All right, thank you.
Again, I'm from Evanston. I don't know if I said that first time. But we're going through the same thing. Okay? Going through the same thing. And what personally would like to see, and I applaud you because he grounded in the neighborhood that you're developing. We have outside developers that care less about our concerns. Also, I'll be honest, that don't see it through my lens and a lot of the lens that are affected by gentrification. Okay, let's call it what it is. I think that what we need to do as residents in these communities are to come to the table, bring Children's Hospital, bring the zoo, bring First in Cincinnati, all of that dangle and put the blood in the water so the sharks can come to the table so that we can have something in place. I need to be repaired. In order for me to stay in my home, there should be a fund because they lure me to these communities so that they can work at their job. So if there's nowhere for these people that interest. So progress is happening at the expense of Black folks. And when we say this, no one is hearing it. And I understand that the rent. But it's really not trying to live. I get it. But I'm thinking, Lord, they have properties where there's mixed incomes. They have designated, I have a friend that lives in a high rise, you can see the Statue of Liberty from her apartment. She doesn't make that happen. But because it was a gentrified area, it's in the law, they have a clause that says, if you're gonna do this, set aside no income. I don't care if it's two, you set aside something. And this is what we need to be doing. We need to call these people. There should be, like those companies that I mentioned, the hospitals and the universities that benefit our expense. They should have a fund. So if I need a roof put on, you put it on. Don't do nothing but write it off anyway. What is it? Flooring or a rail that they need to get into their home, anything to allow age in place. I want to be able to do that. If I want to downsize, but stay in my community, I want to be able to do that. People at the table. In my opinion, they're the real culprits. Because the developers aren't going to come if there's no need. And that's my opinion. Because I've known you all your life also. So, I know that you have reinvested in this community. It's, you're coming in after everybody else has come in and they just built monstrosities out here and they've changed the whole section of the community. And I'm not talking about white and black, I'm talking about the buildings and the neighborhood and the having someone that you can borrow sugar from, because you grew up on the street with them. And so, I think it's a good thing what you're doing. I mean, they're getting ready to build right on Anderson and Madison Road, where Joe, his wife, lived forever in that Victorian house. She passed away and then he passed away. He was in a nursing home and somebody from California was on our street asking who lives there, who lives there. People that bought it initially, and she told me they're gonna put a bed and breakfast there. And you know what? After it was purchased and it sat there for a minute, and then it looked like a turkey at Thanksgiving, the way they picked it apart, because it had a lot of, they had a whole lot of relics in their house and go out and buy, antiques, and it was full of stuff. And even their house had unique, like copper finishings on it and stuff. So it stayed vacant for a long time. And now they're building seven condos. And you wonder how they're going to enter in off of that street where there's John P. Parker School, already so congested. You can't, and it's okay because it's full in there, but now you've got the traffic from the monstrosity over there behind Anderson, in between Anderson and Stewart, where the Horsemeyers used to have that property, and they used to have miniature ponies and miniature donkeys, and my grandkids would throw carrots over the fence to them. And they said they wanted housing put there. And look what happened.
Now that is I think that they did, that they put back there, it looks like a barracks. You can't hardly, I don't even know how they maneuver back there. The houses or the buildings are this close together. They told us that it's gonna be 2.5 stories high. Our buildings, my house is a 2.5 story house. And there's other 2.5 story houses. But you know what? When they built their houses, they towered over ours because they said, oh, commercial property, 2.5 story is taller than residential 2.5 story. We didn't even get to see, we only saw the front view of the drawing. We didn't see the side of the houses. And this is something you need to maybe make sure that the people that are living around there get to see. We didn't get to see the side that's facing our houses. So they have these big windows that are look like they're supposed to this to our house. They could look in our house. They didn't even take consideration for the property owner on that street. They didn't consult us. We tried to meet with them. They encroached on our property. They hit my foundation of my garage and cracked it. They were this close to my garage in the back. So when they dug out to make that street to go back there, they had to make a turn. And right where they're making the street wide to turn, they had to cut closer in to my garage. And then it fanned out all the way down. But they left our yards tore up, rooted. We couldn't even stop. And they never paid any consequences to it. And we were on hold. So I'm glad that you're at least talking to the residents, saying, you know, I want your thoughts, your input. Because they didn't care a thing about what we said. And they held our property in hostage. They held us in hostage until they finally got their approval. You know, and then they fixed our property, or they put a fence up. They weren't going to put a retaining wall up, which is a drop off in the back of our house, in the back of our yard, just a drop off 4 feet. And I fortunately knew an engineer that I showed him the drawing, and he said, oh no, what they wanted to do was just put some rocks and some mesh. And he said, no, the slope isn't going, it's not going to work. And I said, he sent that at least on my street. She was fiery and she fired off a lot of emails to him. But we sent that to them and we made them do something better. They put like a retained curve or whatever, but to try to hold the dirt in so they could have a slope. We did make them do a couple of things, but they tore our property up. And we lived like that until the next year. So I commend you for having a meeting and being considerate. And I know your heart. I know you're a man of your word. I know you're an honest person, you're a family person, you're a God-fearing person. So I know that when you stand here and you say that you really do, you know, what you're saying is true. And I know you can't probably get numbers out right now, you know, but you know, I wish those in those houses back there, I forget how many apartments are back there, about 50, 100, and how many? It's parking spaces. Yeah, but you know what? Yeah. It's they didn't care anything about. They didn't set up and say, you know, I'm going to try to do the best I can. They should have put some mixed rents back there because they had enough of them that it's not going to hurt them. Plus, they have so it's not going to hurt them, you know, to do that. They do have a calculation, don't
They do.
they? Yeah,
Cheapest rent.
so the cheapest rent is a studio for mine. And two. 1,415. But the point is, they could have made it affordable, not a studio, because. I mean, you know, my grandson might want to live in a studio, you know. A grown person or a husband and wife or, you know, just starting out, they want to live in a studio. So, you know, I thank you for being here and being open and honest, and I think you will follow through with whatever you say. You know, I have confidence in you that you're gonna do the right
So
thing.
much. I appreciate
as much
that.
as you can.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Okay, so if there's any updates.
There's no ask tonight, right?
No, yes, there's no ask tonight. Obviously, it's possible that when he does his coordinated site review with the city, they will tell him that he needs to do X, Y, and Z. So hopefully that is the case. I will update everybody. And you know, their information I'll pass along regardless. Okay, so it's the AC is off. Hey, did you still want to conduct your notification? So Kate notified me and the board of proposed bylaws and standing rules update. So as our bylaws state, you have to give written notice to community council, which was this piece of paper on the table. If anybody else doesn't have a copy, let me know.
Is there a quorum present?
All the active members, raise your hand.
Non-board member.
We need board members for a quorum to end.
Yeah, put
Yes.
15 people for a
You
quorum.
need 4 board members and 15 active members for quorum
So that would be 19 then.
total. Okay, so active members, please raise your hand. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4. We cannot conduct business. Good. All right. Announcements for the general body, Alex.
Just so it can be official right into the minutes. This is just on a positive note. We had some great work on the Little Duck Creek Trail last week. Has anybody been on the trail? Great. So that's one person. Good. So first we had 45 volunteers from UC show up. A bus. I was expecting 20 people. On that day, we also had 18 people from JLL who showed up from Cincinnati. And we ended up not only mulching the final part of Bramble Park, we mulched Road Park, we mulched Trolley Park, if those are aware of that, that's the park up on Mad Llama. We finished the final section of Settle, and it was done in under 2 hours. That was pretty amazing. And then today really is probably the best thing. Today we had 60 sophomores from Schroeder High School show up at Bramble Park. We were working with KCB. Again, that's Keep Cincinnati Beautiful. Parks Department showed up with their sort of resource manager on how to get rid of invasive. And the sophomores went through the park cutting out the garlic mustard or whatever they were doing. So that was really amazing because in the 10 possible years that I've been doing this, it's the first time we've had input from Schroeder High School. That is really excellent. Looks like we're going to get more in the future. The only other thing I need to ask here, Carrie, is that per our agreement with Erie Median, I'll need to make a request for mulch because we have to mulch that median as per our revocable permit. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I don't think that's legally binding. Okay, send me what you have, but that is not like a legally binding agreement. When asking something of me, so send me what you have. What I have is